Welcome back, everyone. For our next video, a previous viewer had commented and asked for a Kaeya look at the translation differences, so that's what we're going to go look at. Kaeya's title is Hanfeng Jianshi, the swordsman of the frozen wind. Very fitting. He is a swordsman, and he is a cryo character. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so as we start with the character description, there's a couple of more general things I want to cover. We hear the Knights of Favonius quite often. Favonius, when I looked it up, is one of the Roman wind gods. In Mandarin, it just means wind from the west. Xifeng is like with a west wind. So maybe Favonius has like a special direction that he comes from or something. But that's a weird difference for me. I mentioned for Zhongli, there's Shen Xin, which is the Gnosis. This one is Vision, which is Shen Yan, the Eye of God, or God or gods. So it kind of makes sense, a little bit more sense than Gnosis, I think. So in the future, when you say Shen Yan, it just means like the Eye of Gods. For the constellation, the English is Pavo Ocellus. Pavo is Latin for peacock, and Ocellus is eye. In the Mandarin, it is 孔雀羽, so peacock feather. Maybe it's referring to the end of the peacock feather where it kind of looks like an eye. And the last one that I really want to talk about that kind of annoys me is that they call Kaya or Kaya exotic. Please do not ever, 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 ever use exotic to describe a person. In Mandarin, he says 异国面容, which means he looks foreign. 异国, it just means from a foreign country. So immediately you know he is not from Mondstadt, but it doesn't really mean he's exotic. Like, just strike that from your dictionary. Character details. So here we learn that Kaya is adopted, and he has a adoptive brother, Diluk. Something that's really important about Yi Xiong here and Yi Fu here is that it's not necessarily a requirement that you have a full core family to have this kind of bond. For many of you who have played Dynasty Warriors before, there are three people, Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei. They are Yi Xiongdi, so they are sworn brothers, and they don't have like parental permission or whatever. This bond can be formed between like basically anyone of the same like generation or different generations, and they kind of just automatically assign who is the older brother, who is a younger brother, who is an older sister, who is a younger sister, so on and so forth. In modern terms, this is called 干爹干姐 or something like that. Special side note, Gandia at this point in time, I've been informed by some of my friends, is sometimes used as sugar daddy. To add on to a little bit more of what I was just saying about sworn brothers and sisters, in Mandarin we define familial relationships with different terms. So you can find a lot of videos explaining why we have many, many different titles for our family tree. Some of the basic ones that you'll see used often in the 干爹干妈 or like 义父义母 style is just your father and mother. So 爹 and 父 are dad, and then 妈 and 母 are mom. And then you have 哥哥, which is older brother, 弟弟 younger brother, 姐姐 older sister, and 妹妹 younger sister. No one really uses like dia or mu anymore for mom and dad. It's mostly just like baba, mama. For those of you who are like, Chinese diaspora, if you really, really want to troll your mom, you can call her like anyang or like niangqin, just to make it sound like you're using a very old form of calling them that. And then for dad, it's like dia dia or adia. So Kaya's story, for the most part, is really well done. I didn't find many points to pick on. A couple of adjectives here and there to kind of differentiate specific details, but overall, good job done by the localization team. So on character story one, you'll see that Kaeya has a little section here that says 带着令人有些恼火的微笑. They translate it as arrogant, but when someone says like 恼火, it means to like bother someone to the point where it angers you. So it's like an angering smirk. Like basically, his smirk makes him have a punchable face, which I thought was missing from just arrogant. And we're just gonna jump straight into character story 5 because, like I said before, there was all pretty well done, very little bit to pick about. Over here, you're gonna see they describe Diluc and then Kaya. Something that they didn't mention in Diluc's story is that they use the phrase 无可挑剔. Literally means like perfection or nothing to pick about. And then Kaya's English added eccentric, but that's actually not shown or said in Kaya's story in the Mandarin part. Next up, voice lines. Hope you are excited.
I didn't know you were such a slacker.
没想到你也知道忙里偷闲。
So that was the first line that I want to talk about. It's when he's hanging around, nothing to do. The English one says you're such a slacker. In Mandarin, he uses the phrase 忙里偷闲. It means to find like a dead spot in your like busy schedule to just like steal away and like take a break. So yeah, I guess slacking works, but like 忙里偷闲 has this implication that you're doing it like specifically in between your busy times and not before you start. You're just like whatever, it's gonna like sneak away.
Seems all the other knights already have their hands full.
骑士团的战友们已经忙得不可开交了吧？
The second one over here, where he says they already have their hands full, the phrase in Mandarin is 忙得不可开交. 不可开交 is unable to like undo like the stuff that you like have knotted up in that sense. So 不可 is like unable to, and 开 means to like open, to like 解开, and 交 in this place means like kind of like a something's like snagged onto you and 纠缠, like something's just constantly bothering you or something. So 忙得不可开交 is a common phrase that you can use and you'll probably hear when learning Mandarin, is that you're so busy there's just like absolutely nothing else you can do.
What's wrong? Can't handle the cold?
怎么，你怕冷？
All right, so this next one is when it's snowing and he says can't handle the cold. In Mandarin, he says 你怕冷啊? Pa is to be afraid, so he's actually asking, are you afraid of the cold? And not, can't handle it. I think if you're going to say if you can't handle it, it would be like 你不耐寒 or 你不耐冷. Like to 耐 is to like resist or to like to deal with it in this case. So I guess a minor difference.
What a pleasant breeze. I wonder how long it'll last.
真是和平啊，可又能持续多久呢？
For the windy part, he says, what a pleasant breeze, but the Mandarin is 真是和平啊. It's like, it's really peaceful. So I don't know what went wrong there, but one is not like the other.
Seize the day.
享受这一天吧。
His good morning is all wrong. It's not seize the day. In Mandarin, 享受这一天 is just like, enjoy the day. Like, he just wants to chill. He's not going to go out and do stuff. You think Kaya's got the motivation to go out and do stuff? Please.
You're not scared of the dark, are you? That's interesting.
你该不会怕黑吧？哦，那我可找到新素材了。
His good evening is also kind of wrong. He says, that's interesting in English when he ends, but in Mandarin, it's 那我可找到新素材了, means I found new material. In other words, I think this guy is very calculating. Kai is very calculating, and if he finds something that you're afraid of or something that he can use, then he will probably use it against you, so I'm gonna keep an eye on this guy.
D-Luke? He was cute as a young lad, but nowadays he just seems to be in a world of his own. Overall, not much fun to hang out with.
迪卢克，小时候的他挺可爱的，可如今却活在自己的世界里。总之是个无趣的家伙。
I don't think it's a secret that Kaeya and Diluka have a history. So for this part, he says not a fun person to be with, but in reality, he's just saying he's a boring person. So probably about the same, but I think boring is more the way he says it, 无趣 is more insulting than someone who's not fun to hang out with.
Albedo, eh? Calm, collected, and incredibly talented. He's the type everybody likes. Some even more so than others. What, you into him as well?
阿贝多啊，沉稳优雅的小帅哥，而且才华横溢，是很讨人喜欢的类型。怎么，你也心动了？
So with this one, I think Kaya reveals a little bit more about himself. In the English one, it says, "What, you into him as well?" It's kind of teasing. The Mandarin one, he uses "你也心动吗?" When we say 心动, it means your heart moves. It's more of an emotional reaction. I think Kaya always walks a line between like being humorous and not humorous as a way of, defending what he really feels. But I'm just gonna go ahead and say here that I'm pretty sure that Kaya is not straight.
I was entrusted by the acting Grand Master to work in the background to support Noelle. But there hasn't been much for me to concern myself with. She has a good head on her shoulders. Quite the relief.
我受代理团长大人所托，暗中照顾这位后辈。不过他很懂事，不需要我操太多心，真是令人欣慰。
All right. For Noel, in English, he uses Noel, the name, but in Mandarin, he uses Hou Bei. This is an honorific that we use pretty often. Those of you who watch a lot of anime may hear like senpai and kohai. This is kohai. And we also use chenbei, which is basically senpai. Sometimes you'll also hear wanbei. Wanbei is also hou bei. This isn't just limited to like specific settings. In a lot of period dramas, you'll also hear people refer to themselves when they're talking to someone who is older than them. They'll say "wanbei" something something something, right? Or they'll refer to the person who's older as "qianbei." These are all honorifics that just kind of show the differential in the generation between the two characters. So it's just a way of referring without like saying their name as a sign of respect.
Sucrose may not be much of an extrovert in public, but as they say, it's always the quiet ones. Apparently, her laboratory is home to quite the eclectic range of implements, and her experiments are more than just intellectually stimulating. All hearsay, of course. You don't seriously think I would go snooping around a fair lady's private quarters, do you?
别看砂糖文静又内向，据说他在实验室里收藏了很多特别的东西哦，很刺激又很露骨的那种。嗯，你问我啊？我像是会偷看女孩子房间的人吗？
So Sucrose. Sucrose, he says that her experiments are more than just intellectually stimulating. In Mandarin, he uses 很露骨. Raw translation or literal translation is it's very revealing to the bone. It kind of means it's very explicit, and I think it's best that we just leave that one there and move on.
You always seem to be around to give me a hand. Thanks.
你好像一直都很照顾我嘛。谢了。
The last one I want to talk about is when you give him his Ascension Phase 2. English, he says, "You always seem to be around to give me a hand." Mandarin, he says, 都很照顾我. That means you always take good care of me. I think there's this one, the take good care of me is a little bit better. Shows a little bit more emotional connection for Kaeya and the Traveler. So I kind of wish they could update that one a little bit. And that's it for Kaeya's lore voice lines, everyone. Next time I do a video, it's going to be the combat voice lines for him. And I'll figure out who to go to after that. Hope you all are enjoying these videos. Let me know in the comments below.